Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy Dave at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan. And today we bring you what we hope a very good discussion as Conte's contract negotiations have taken a backward step. Look, my prediction is there might be a little bit of a fallout going forward, but we'll wait and see. But we've got some great people here to discuss it. Also, talking a little bit about Harry Maguire. Would it be a disaster or a steal for Tottenham Hotspur? Of course, Jack will be hosting, the main man. How you keeping?
Doing well, Dave. Doing well. It's good to have these debate shows back. You know, I have cooked up some good questions here, Parachichi style, Dave, for everybody. It's good to get back into kind of the thick of things. We actually have some good things to talk about. A certain Conte contract renewal. Apparently, already some words have been retracted, as Mia has said, by Jack Pitbrook in the article. Maybe that's all part of Conte's plans. We're basically just going to take a look at that whole article today, everybody, and kind of just break down every single facet of it, every single part of it that I thought was important, and maybe just get a better understanding of this whole kind of contract renewal, this whole contract situation with Antonio Conte. So if anything, we'll probably come out a little bit wiser, or we'll come out in the exact same spot we've came before when it comes to this contract renewal. But I'm looking forward to it nonetheless. And Dave, we have Phil on the show today, a fan show member. He's making his debut on the debate shows today. Phil, how we keeping?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. It's good to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Good to have you, mate. Good to have you. And we're going to be a bit cruel to you, Phil, with the opening question. You know, normally we give easy questions for the debuts, but luckily we're giving you a hard one. But we're going to have someone who's used to the hard questions. And Mr. Daigle, how are we?
I'm doing very, very good, mate. It's been a very stressful few weeks, but we're coming out of that, and it's always good to be back on this channel with you two, and obviously Phil this time, and with the Irish Flat Cap Army. So always an absolute pleasure, and what topics we have to discuss. I couldn't have written it better myself.
We're teeing you up today, Mr. Daigle. We're teeing you up. But everybody do smash that like button while you're in here if you do enjoy these debate shows, because Dave finally making a return to the debate shows. It's good to be back in our element.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I can't wait. Look, we've got some good things to discuss. There wasn't really much to discuss over the World Cup, but we're back now, hot and heavy. And I mean, what better way to start it than our favorite man, Antonio Conte? So let's get it going, Jacko.
Let's get it going. Just want to greet a few people in the chat, but we're going to do it quickly because we do want to make the best interest of people's time here with the debate show, with the questions. But it's good to see Shay Gooch in here. Also, Lazy 8 Dave saying, I'm expecting at least 2 world-class rants on these topics so I can get my day started right. Don't disappoint me, lads. Minimum of 2. Phil, Daigle, Dave, anybody willing to provide one? Anybody can back themselves to provide at least one here for Lazy 8? Anybody want to raise their hand?
I'm not sure it's much of a rant. I'm not sure it's much of a rant, but I think the thoughts I recorded last night on the whole situation are decent enough. So hopefully you like it, Nick.
So I'm doing some homework in the background there, Lazy. I'm pretty sure he's got a good rant prepared. He was doing some homework in the background. Neil Shafton is in the house. Rest in peace, Terry Hall. Happy holidays, Neil. I hope you're keeping well, my man. Really hope you're keeping well. All good in LA, my man. Derek Hutchinson, good to see you. Jazz Fusion, always good to see you. Simon Cohen is in the house. Moondog saying, I can't see us signing anyone. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of optimism that's been lost around the Tottenham Hotspur community with these sort of contract talks, that's for sure. Frank Last is in the house. Big up, Daigle and Jack. Welcome in, Phil and Dave. Frank, but good to see you, my man. Mia W. Afternoon, guys. Just heard Jack Pitbrooks is now backing down on his claims a little. Was it just clickbait? I'm not sure if it was just clickbait, but what I would say, Mia, perhaps it was part of Antonio Conte's intentions and maybe part of his best interests all along to make it slightly confusing, to maybe make it sound a bit sensational and everything, because it only adds to the drama of this contract renewal. And me personally, I think he loves this kind of drama around his contract renewal.
Can I come in on that just quickly? Look, we can sit here and say it's clickbait, but the fact of the matter is the contract hasn't been resolved, which means Tottenham have failed in their attempts to convince Conte of the project going forward. So whether you like to think it's clickbait or not, it doesn't matter. Just read between the lines. Conte has not signed a new contract.
Yeah, he just simply hasn't, and so we kind of are still in the same position.
Yeah, can I just add one thing on that? The one thing I will say, and I spoke to David about this last night, whether it was clickbait or not, what you have to remember with a lot of people, and then I hold myself at the front of this queue, when it comes to stuff around transfer rumours, fine. It could be all media and people jump on it, and I'm one of them. I don't. But when it comes to rumours and talk about Daniel Levy backtracking and saying it, there is the way I look at it with him is there is no smoke. There's no smoke without fire. And when these things come out, you can't help but think, oh, here we go. I've seen this before. It could be clickbait. It could be well and truly clickbait. Maybe it is. But with Daniel Levy, you just never know.
It can't be clickbait because if it wasn't, we wouldn't be sitting here right now talking about it. The fact is, they've had a golden opportunity that they never get in any other season, which is the break over the World Cup to tie down this guy's contract. And I'm going to get into it in a while. And it should have been done for a number of reasons. Now, it hasn't been done. So we can sit here and say it's clickbait all we want. But the fact of the matter is there's been no contract signed, and we were told and we were led to believe it would be done over the World Cup. And then we're coming out the World Cup in their January window, and it hasn't been done. So you can sit here and say it's clickbait, but I would say to people, I'll be concerned. Yeah. I know we don't like what you're talking about Tottenham, and we don't trust the media, this, that, and the other. But it doesn't take a genius to know that it just hasn't been signed. It hasn't been done, and there's obviously reasons why.
Yeah, that's a very good point there. Brian Maguire is in the house. Good to see you there, Brian. Lee Richards, always good to see you, my man. Griff is in here, too. If Conte walks, we walk. Levy out. Big up, Daigle. He's already putting in his comments in the chat. We'll be hearing from him. He's also welcoming in the Harris Army. Thank you, Daigle. Elias Christian, Pedro Porro. He came from Sporting like Cristiano. I love that. He's got a little song already for our new right wing back. Phil, just quickly, just kind of let you in on this Pedro Porro situation. Is this kind of somebody that you're sort of excited about? And also, just want to ask kind of a random question to you. Apparently, Conte's obsessed with these 6'+ right wing backs. Do you feel like that's totally, something that you can get behind, or are you kind of a big Pedro Porro fan? And would you be happy to sign somebody that's not totally the Conte type physical specimen?
Yeah, I don't think he's a Conte signing, but he has got the ability to play right wing back for us, 100%. He played well against us in both legs, I thought, and I think he'd be a great wing back for us. But yeah, Conte goes for the more the powerful right wing back. But yeah, Pedro Porro isn't that. He's quick. He's good at delivering the ball, which we need. And yeah, I think it'll be a good way to go.
Me too. I think he has so much more technical ability to his game that we're really missing in those right wing back areas. That's for sure. Michael's in the house. I can hear some hard bass in the background. That was probably me singing earlier before we went live, but maybe it's still carrying over my beautiful tunes there, Michael.
I think it's coming out a day because every time I mute him, it stops and then comes back. I'm not sure. It's the internet.
Always blame me. Of course it's me.
It is.
Where's that hard bass coming from, Daigle?
I'm joking.
Where's the bass guitar? Who's playing it, Daigle? Who's playing the bass guitar in the background?
No, John is downstairs. My dad, thankfully, people know he's just come out of hospital. He's extremely ill. He's got a couple of friends come round. His dad, his best mate, and his wife, and they're playing some music downstairs. So I think it's the speakers are in the ceiling, so it's right below me. So I think it's coming through. So it's no one singing. It's my dad's music.
Listening to the good stuff, though, Michael. That's what we can guarantee. Lazy A, 5D chess from Davo. Like I said, he was playing, doing some homework in the background. I think he's got some good points prepared. Tony Rodriguez is in here. Patty Harnett's in here. R. Green. So many more. Steve D. Andrew McLeod. Jazz Fusion. Tin Man 007. Glad I didn't miss you there, Tin Man. And so many more. Foggy Foam, Mark New, and BB and KPV. Kyle Patrick Vinyard, the man that always tells us to cue the music. But everybody, I'm going to leave it there. I do want to get straight into the discussion points. I do want to get straight into it. But yeah, Dave.
I was going to say, if you want, I can just start off hot and heavy, give everybody my thoughts that I written out last night, and then we can go from there if you want, Jack. It's up to you.
I kind of wanted to warm up with the Maguire question, Dave, or did you want to get straight into the contract discussions?
No, go on. We'll go with Harry Maguire, get him out of the way, and then. But come to me first because I want to share my thoughts and then see what everyone thinks off the back of them.
Absolutely. A certain Talk Sport, everybody, has been rumored with Spurs, and they have been connecting Harry Maguire apparently with Tottenham Hotspur. I don't know where I stand on this, lads. I'm kind of going to go to Phil first here, maybe because I'm a bit cruel and I want to maybe give him a tough question here because Harry Maguire certainly is a divisive center back, that's for sure. I feel like he has a few strengths that he could bring to this team here, Phil, and I'd be curious what you think of this. I think he's exceptional in the air with the benefit of someone like Gianni Vio, too. That could be really lethal combination, and Gianni Vio is just asking for a big slab head with some of these set pieces. He has shown that his best position is in a back three, for me, Maguire, which is certainly the system that we're rocking at the moment. He has a physical advantage, I think, similar to kind of really good back three players that Conte has used in the past. Chiellini, Barzagli, Bonucci, etc. were all great back three center backs, and they kind of had a bit of that physical kind of dominance, I think, to the likes of a Harry Maguire. But what do you make of Harry Maguire, Phil? Is he a bit of a steal, or is he maybe a disaster waiting to happen if Spurs went after him?
Yeah, I'm not keen on Maguire and Dyer at the back, to be honest. Slabhead and Meanbits. Yeah, Maguire would work well in a back three. I think that's why he hasn't played well at United, because he plays in a back two. So I think he would fit in perfectly for us. I think he is a leader. I think he's a great header of the ball in the opposition box and in our box as well. He's a good distributor of the ball. He's commanding, and I think Conte would mould him into a better defender than he is now.
Yeah. And also, Phil, though, some people kind of complain about, Maguire's ability to turn. They say he's a bit like an oil tanker, when turning at times. But we're so used to watching ice skate Sanchez every week. I mean, how much worse can it really be to watch ice skate Sanchez instead of a guy who turns slowly? It probably actually isn't that bad in comparison when you put it that way, right?
Yeah. I mean, Romero at the side of Maguire and, left side centre-back with pace as well, like an Indica or an Nkate would fit perfectly for us. And I think if we got Maguire in, we would need the other centre-back as well coming in with him. I think Davis, Langley might work, but Davis wouldn't work, to be honest. So we would need to bring two centre-backs in if we were going to bring him in.
Mr. Daigle, what have you made of maybe some of my kind of, let's say, strengths that I've kind of given maybe a certain Harry Maguire, right? I think Gianni Vio would be happy to have a certain slab head, with those set pieces. Also, maybe he has had his best moments in a back three, and he has also shown that whenever he is given time away from Man United, he's actually played quite well, funny enough, when given time away from Man United. So could this actually be a transfer that ends up working out for both parties, or am I getting a bit ahead of myself here?
So I have to say, I know we're getting into this feels like we're sitting down for a Christmas meal with these questions. And right now we've pulled out the Christmas cracker. We've got that joke and put on the party hat. So let's discuss this. Look, Harry Maguire, is he better in a back three?
I think so.
100%. Did he play well for England in the World Cup? Yeah, he did. He did at occasions, but he was at fault for the goal that France scored. Will he do well in a back three? Yes. Will a back three of Dyer and Maguire together be that scares the crap out of me? And I know David's got moon boots and all these other names. I'm now going to give him another name which he can use, which I'm now calling Longley Longgap. And the reason I'm going to call him Longgap is because he was the stopgap, the short-term solution for a Gvardiol or a Bastoni that's coming next summer. Gvardiol will go Man City or elsewhere. Bastoni doesn't want to leave Inter. So the Longley, who was the stopgap, will end up being the signing and will be the Longgap. So that's what I'm now calling Longley. I don't see Maguire played well for England over 6 games. Does he do it in the Premier League over 38 for me? Next to Dyer and a Sanchez if Romero's out? That is like the Three Stooges. That is a comedy show waiting to happen. I think the Harry Maguire boat has gone. When we're talking like those players I just mentioned, Bastoni, Gvardiol, they're players I think every single Spurs fan will go, oh, yes, feed this, give it to me. Let's make this happen. To Harry Maguire. To Harry Maguire. No.
It's almost like these are signings where you have to convince ourselves.
Don't you think he played well for Leicester when they won the league? And they were playing in the back three, like with Robert Huth.
That was 3-4 years ago now.
Yeah, true.
And it was actually West Morgan and Rob Huth. He came the season after.
Yeah, he did come the season after.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
it was rough.
I think
when they got sacked by Ranieri and they were almost relegated. So
yeah, I think he is proven.
What we should be looking at when we go to sign our signings is, do they solve any problems that we're currently having in that situation? When I look in that defense, when I look at Maguire, I know some people aren't going to like it, but for me, he does. Aerially, we have had an aerial problem in this backline, in this team, since Jose Mourinho. It's been evident from corner kicks, free kicks, crosses into the box. Never the first man to go and win a header, ever. Maguire will be that guy. Maguire can do that. Is Maguire better on the ball than Dyer? For me, yes. I think he's more calm on the ball. I think he can play out from the back. Now, where the problems does come in is he's probably similar mobility to Dyer. We've also got to remember, now, there's a lot of people out there going to say no to Maguire, but yet they were all making excuses for Dyer, Sanchez, and Davies over the summer transfer window, saying, look what Conte's done to them, this, that, and the other. So apply that logic to Maguire. If Conte can get stuff out of Dyer and that for a period of time, I reckon he'll be able to do it with Harry Maguire as well. Plus, Maguire will end up being in one of the fittest shapes of his life than he's ever been. We know this at Tottenham. The players are super, super fit. And when you're super, super fit, you can do things that you can't do when you're carrying a bit of extra weight. You have better movement, better mobility and stuff like this. And whether we like it or not, we also have to look at the English quota that we have. There was an article put out last night. I've been talking about it for nearly a month now about this January transfer window that, we have to meet that quota. And we eventually, somewhere along the line, we're going to have to start looking at English players because we're not bringing enough through the ranks to add in. And we also have some of the worst crop of English players to pick from around. So for me, at some stage, you're going to have to start at looking at rid of some of the English guys and replacing them with some English guys. And the fact that Maguire has been dropped by Man United, still starts ahead of Eric Dyer, should tell everybody everything they need to know. Maguire is clearly a better centre-back. For me, I wouldn't say no. The only thing is I wouldn't want to be paid 50, 60 million. I want him at cut price, 25 million, slash away, get in here and do your job. And there's a possibility and it can happen because Maguire has to get his career back on track. No club is going to take him off United on the wages he's on. United aren't going to sell him for a massive fee. They'll also have to take a hit. So for me, there's an opportunity there. But whether we like it or not, somewhere along the line, we have to start looking at bringing English players in here.
Is Slabhead that much better than Moonhead, Phil?
I think he's an upgrade on Dyer. Yeah, 100%. I think he's got he's probably got the same pace, but every other attribute he is better at. And heading is the one thing for me that we're missing in that back line, and that's why I would bring him in. Really.
I'm with you. In fact, I actually think there are a few things he probably brings that maybe I don't think Slabhead can say he's actually better at. One of that is that set piece threat. Certainly a much better set piece threat. I think he's actually better on the ball than actually some of the rest of our center backs too. Even if he were to come into this team, it sort of speaks to how poor most of our center backs are on the ball. That I think if Maguire stepped into this team, he'd probably be the second or third best player on the ball already in that back line. And that does, kind of maybe cause some worries there. And I would say this again, it does feel like every time he's given maybe that chance away from Man United, he seems to be a bit of a different player, seems to kind of make those fewer mistakes, doesn't really look like kind of the calamity that he usually is. Is that just because Man United are a bit of a club like that players who often have been great players just kind of don't, seem to vibe well with the pressure there, or maybe just the atmosphere and everything, and maybe what he needs is just to move away from that type of Manchester limelight and into the North Tottenham light and see how he can do there. And maybe that can be kind of a good move for both parties. And I know it's classic Spurs example to, right, like Brian said, not go after Bastoni, not go after Gvardiol, and try to convince ourselves of a Harry Maguire. But in all seriousness, I actually think Harry Maguire is a serious upgrade on some of the other center backs that we do have.
Just quickly, Daigle. Steve D says, here, Jack, why do we need to take a punt on someone like Maguire? How is it a good sign?
I don't know if it's a good signing, but I think it probably is more of a signing that we could actually steal. Like, it's kind of, the question is it a disaster or is it a steal? I'd actually lean more towards it being a steal than it could be a disaster, because I think he's better than some of the ones we already have. And it probably is true Spurs kind of fashion to be rationalizing and convincing ourselves of this type of transfer. But if I really do think about it deeper, I think Maguire is significantly better than actually.
I think it would be a steal if we got him for the right price.
So the thing I want to add to this right now is, if you look at it, Look at our midfield, our central midfield. Right now, you've got Højbjerg, Bentancur, Skip, Bissouma. That's a good four. I'd say we could close the book on midfielders. Whatever way you look at it, that is a good combination of midfielders to have in the role that Conte wants them to play. So if you took a punt on a player, you're like, okay, we'll take a punt because he was available. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we've got our quota, our nucleus. This defence needs open heart surgery. Do you want to take a punt on him because he's cheap and hope it works, or go, right, let's go get a defender that's like 40, 50 mil and does the job at his club, at his nation, and does the job? That we're in our defence. We are not. We messed about for so long. David knows I talk about the right back thing and I use him every single time. We're done with punts in defence. The only one that's come good right now is Romero, and he's got to get back to what he was last season. We can't mess around with punts. We have to go, right, this defence needs shoring up. We need to bring in quality that does it at both international and national level. No more time for punts when it comes to the defence, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably agree with you there. And that might be one of the main takeaways of this, is that even if some might think it's a steal, it still is, a classic case of Spurs fans convincing themselves of a signing that might work instead of just everybody unanimously agreeing that it is a great signing. And that's kind of a classic example we find ourselves in here. Adrian Chia, big up lads, Kulusevski and Bentancur are Juve rejects. Can they repeat January's masterclass? That was discussed on the podcast the other day. Adrian Chia, let us know what you think. I'd like to think that Paratici has some good stuff cooked up for us, but we are hearing some rumors. It's yet again probably not the most, not the biggest amount of investment could be made in January. So yet again, Paratici is going to have to find a way to cook up a good deal with maybe not a lot of resources available to him. But we always trust him over here, the Paratici twins. That's for sure here, Adrian.
Big up Adrian Chia. Just to add to that, look, what I will say is as well off the back of that is a lot of fans were dubious over Lenglet coming in here. Now, what's shown since is he's miles better than a Davies, than a Dyer, than a Sanchez. So these players that are maybe on the periphery of big clubs, this, that, and the other, they're coming in here. Same as Kulu, same as Bentancur, and they're showing they're miles better than what we've had to watch over the last few years. Miles better. And I think we actually have to learn not to keep writing these signings off. We've done it with the Juve boys. There was loads of people calling them Juve rejects, calling Kulu too slow, this, that, and the other. Well, what are they saying now? Loads of people had their doubts about Lenglet. 10 times better than Ben Davies, defensively and on the ball. And where we're at when we're trying to where we're trying to go, we can't take the big boy star players that are in their starting 11 because it's going to command 100, 120 million. Never going to pay that sort of money. So what you do have to do is look at the guys behind them, or you go across Europe and scout guys that are good quality before they get to them big clubs. But either or, Spurs fans aren't happy with.
But we had success with Juve rejects. Could we have success with a Man United reject? Interesting point there.
Of course we could. I wouldn't write it off. Like we've got to learn our lessons. People said, well, is Bentancur really an upgrade on Winks? I mean, Winks couldn't be any further away from Bentancur's ability if he tried. Is Kulu an upgrade on what we have? I mean, what we had, Bergwijn, Lucas couldn't be any further away from Kulu's quality if they tried. Lenglet better than Davies. Romero walked straight into that defence. We will not truly realise the shit we've had to watch over the last 3 years until that squad rotation or that squad is fully rebuilt and we start seeing the quality on the pitch. You can already see it in some of the signings. And for me, that's why I would say instead of just writing Maguire off because of what the press say about the guy, the way that they ridicule him every week all the time, I would actually give the guy a chance. Let's be honest. Has Maguire made the amount of mistakes or cost the amount of points Eric Dyer has cost us in 14 games this season in the Premier League over his career? Like, I wouldn't say so. For me, I would give the guy a chance.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I think we might leave it there, maybe on the Maguire conversation, maybe come back to it at some stage in case, the rumors get any deeper. Adrian Chia writing, we are the club tattoo shops at Mark and Spencer clearance cards. I think that's how he wrote it there. Absolutely love it. And we're looking for some Christmas deals here, Adrian. We're looking for some Christmas deals.
No, but big up, Adrian. Look, it's true. It is true. Unfortunately, it is true. But big up, my man. Really appreciate support. God, go giggle out of us. Everybody, make sure you're smashing that like button. Make sure you're obliterating that subscribe button. And guys, we know it's so close to Christmas. Keep getting your comments in the chat. We'll keep bringing them up. If you want to be dominant like Adrian, if you're jealous of Adrian and he has the colour over his chat, just feel free, put in the super chat with your thoughts, your opinions. We'll get them up and we'll all have a good discussion. It is a great way to support the channel. Jacko. Oh, perfect. Time for me to go. Right. So I recorded them on my phone yesterday. So people just bear with me on this. So the whole situation, right? Now, Levy has two options. He can give Conte guarantees and what he wants. It's simple. Back the man, pay the man, and keep the man, and follow through on a project the majority of the fans are behind, and also a chance for Levy to show the fans that he has learned from his lessons from before. And what I mean by that is, under Pochettino, there's an argument to be made that it's our first time really sitting at the top tier of European football. And you could say, okay, the inexperience has cost us. We made a mistake, didn't do our homework into an end umbrella, etc., compiled it with mistakes, let it go on too long. But to get there a second time around and commit the same mistakes is absolutely criminal. Absolutely criminal. So that's what I mean by he has a chance to show the fans that he's learned from his lessons from before. Now, he also has Poch, who is sitting there without a job, who has previously stated that he would love to work at Tottenham again one day, and he's close to Daniel Levy. As we know, they go on holidays together, stuff like that. So for me, there's also the opportunity of Poch coming in there, Jack. He did, like I said, he said he'd love to manage us one day. And we know Levy does not take kindly to demands being made. And I'm sure he's becoming frustrated with the demands that Conte is making in terms of every transfer window. I want this in order to be successful. Probably now a bit, look, money I'd say he's probably happy with this, that, and the other, right? So you have Poch still. So, and if you like, Conte has held Daniel Levy over the barrel for the last year and a half. And that's not Levy. Levy doesn't like that. Levy likes to be seen as the man in control. When everybody talks about Tottenham, they used to talk, Daniel Levy makes all the decisions. Since Conte has come in, that hasn't been the case. Because of the situation under Nuno, Conte has been able to use the annoyance of the fans at what Tottenham have been doing to his advantage to go into there, say, I want this, this, and that. And his bargaining chip is, okay, don't do it, I'll walk. Fans will be on your back, so pick your poison. So they've had to spend the money in the in the transfer windows to back this guy. Now, there is still more to be done because the nature of how bad the squad was and how many players and how many positions we needed to fill. But Daniel Levy is not going to let that keep continuing, where Conte is the one making all the decisions, making all the demands. And with Pochettino sitting there in the background, who knows what could happen? Now, me personally, I don't want Poch back here. The second time is never as good as the first time around. But with Poch sitting there, you just never know. Levy could be quick to pull the trigger. Poch is cheaper on the contracts. Poch will work with the players that the club bring in. And he might have one or two that he might say he wants to go and get. But ultimately, like we've seen before, the club will bring in the players. He'll work with them. A bit more of a yes man than what Antonio Conte is. So Levy can sack Conte and get his reputation back, bring in Pochettino and be seen as the main man in control. Or he can sit there, he can back Conte, which is what the fans want, because the majority of fans wanted this guy in here in the first place, and continue on with the project and follow it through, Jacko, in my opinion. Now, that's where I'm at with it.
You covered a lot of the points there that we're going to get to, that's for sure. We're going to cover a lot of the points.
So, look, where am I? Give me a sec. So, look, his decision is, Jack, either give the fans what they want, follow through with the project, or sack Antonio Conte and bring in Pochettino on. I have more to go on to with Conte because Conte also has two choices, but I'll let the other boys in on what I've just said, and then I'll go into the second part of my thoughts.
I just wanted to get into some of the first little kind of parts of the article here, Dave. Details surrounding it have been released by Jack Pitbrook, and apparently we're getting a better understanding of where Conte stands on the board, but kind of his sort of, I don't know, optimism before that we had surrounding Conte and the contract renewals has sort of kind of taken a turn here, everybody. When Antonio Conte returned to Hotspur Way, fresh from vacation, Conte looked tanned, he looked relaxed, looked refreshed, and kind of looked like Phil here, just looking like a, happy, looking forward to Christmas type of guy. And according to reports, had returned to training full of his usual enthusiasm, commitment, and energy, just loved being back out on the pitch with the players. But as talks resumed at the start of last week, the mood, the music, the bass in the background has slightly changed. Sources close to key figures in the negotiations sound less optimistic than they did earlier in the season about the chance of a deal being reached. Daigle, where do we stand on this? Is it maybe the more that the conversations happen, the more serious that these sort of talks get, perhaps actually the more doubts around the contract renewal happen? Or do you kind of agree with Dave here that perhaps it is just, kind of Conte using a bit of leverage on Levy and not making it easy on him? Where do you stand on this?
So let me try. Do I think Conte is white in this? Hell no, I don't. Hell no, I don't. Do I think he's putting some feelers out as well? Of course he does. But you know what? Fair play to him. Fair play to him. One thing you can't ignore, whether you're as Levy out as I am or Levy out or the complete opposite to me, is time and time we've had managers and we've unfortunately had the same thing happen again where you can dispute, was he back fully? Yes, he may have been given money, but was he given money to buy quantity or was he given money to buy quality? So right now, can you blame Antonio Conte when you've got to remember as well, this isn't just about Antonio Conte. We've got to worry about Harry Kane's contract. We've got to worry about Heung-min Son getting older. We've got to worry about Hugo Lloris getting older and a replacement needs to be found. We need to sort our defence out. There is a lot of work in the upcoming years at Tottenham Hotspur that needs to be done. Forget just this January and this is the big window that we hear every single window. This is the one that sets us aside. You look at this as a project. If Antonio Conte signs a long-term contract, he's got to deal with, like I said, does Kane stay or go? If he goes, does he go in the summer? Does he go for free? Yeah. If he goes for free or he goes in the summer, how much money goes to replacing a player of that quality and that magnitude? If Kane goes, is going to feel like that. Hugo Lloris, if those three go, or any of those go, doesn't Kulusevski, a Bentancur, Romero want to stay? There is a lot of fine details that are going into this contract, and if Conte commits to it, he's going to want assurances. It's not just this January do I get backed.
Yeah,
it's the foreseeable future. What if this happens? What if that happens? If he goes and we sell Kane for 100 million, do I get 100 million to spend on that new striker, or are we going to do quantity over quality again, which we've done on a number of occasions? So. Do I think these rumours, I haven't said it, these rumours come out, again, no matter where you look on the spectrum of Levy and Levy out, every single time. Am I with you?
Yeah, you're with us now.
Sorry about
Gone again. Gone again. That. I would say log out and log back in.
I told you guys, my answer. Are you with me?
I would say log out and log back in.
Guys, you with me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, man, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Good. Okay, you can hear me now. So let's try. As I was saying, there are a lot of things that are going in. Like I said at the beginning, I'm logging out and logging in. I'm logging out and logging in. Levy is at my Wi-Fi once again. You just goddamn know it.
Mid-rant as well. Lazy 8, we almost had our second rant of the day, and Daniel Levy decided to cut him off there. But we were going to get to Adrian Chia's super chat here, and I want to let Phil in here. And he's saying Conte's only leverage is not to sign the extension. So the deeper we get into these talks, Phil, is it maybe Conte's starting to flex a bit of that leverage, kind of maybe, kind of angering Daniel Levy here? He doesn't want to make it easy for him. He doesn't want it to be a smooth discussion because it's not even in his best interest, really, to make it a smooth discussion.
Yeah, I think the longer this goes, Levy is being more backed into a corner even more. And I
Conte
think
knows that.
Oh yeah, of course he does. Of course he does. He's not stupid. He's done this with Inter as well. So yeah, the longer this goes on, it's worse for Levy. With the transfers coming in, I think it's important as well for the players to be on board with who we bring in as well. That they need to be all on the same page. But yeah, we just need these quality signings coming in. No matter what, Levy needs to put his hand in his pocket and just back Conte 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
Interesting
Adrian.
on the January signings though, and this contract extension. I'll just start with the contract extension. I see Shawnee in the chat. Big up, my man. If you want to come on, let us know. We'll send you the link, brother. But look, on that contract extension, first of all, and then I'll touch on the January transfer window. That year extension means absolutely fuck all. And I keep hearing people saying, oh, we can extend it. It doesn't matter. He's here for a year after. Ask yourself this, everybody out there. Why would you extend a manager's contract for an extra year if he's not happy? And we know he's not happy right now because he hasn't signed a new contract. If he was happy, he would have signed a new contract over the two negotiations they've had. So matter of the fact is he's not happy. Why would you extend him for a further year, keep him around when you're not happy, you're not going to give it your full ability. You're not going to be as clued into it as you would if you're happy, and you're just waiting for your contract to run down. So you may as well write off next season if that's the case. So it doesn't make a shrewd move. Now, I'll tell you why that year is in the contract. Is because effectively in the summer, Conte will be a free agent, which means toward the end of the season, he'll probably start getting offers in, right? Which then means as soon as he gets in an offer, Tottenham triggers that year extension, which means Tottenham get compensation for Antonio Conte, which means they'll reclaim some of what they've paid him in wages. That's what that year extension is there. People are going to say, oh, well, it's there for another year to try and convince him. No point. His mind is not in it. His head is not in it. Absolutely. That's why that year extension is there. So Tottenham can recoup some money if a club comes in for him that they've paid him in the 14 million in wages per year since he's been here. So that year contract extension is null and void. Absolutely null and void. It does not make sense to trigger it if the guy's unhappy in the job, because that will only reflect itself on the pitch and then right throughout to the fans, everything else. And it's no good for absolutely nobody. Now, coming into the January transfer window, another reason why it was important to get Conte to sign a contract at this football club was because any signings or any players worth their sort of big players, if we could get them, are not going to come to Tottenham not knowing what Conte's future is beyond the year. If they're going to sign for Tottenham, they want to see that, especially with Conte and his reputation, people want to play for him. They'll want to come here knowing that he's going to be here for longer than a year or for longer than the next 6 months of the season. So why would they tie themselves into a big contract and everything else if the pull was Antonio Conte, if he's not going to be here longer? So we'll have a knock-on effect into our January transfer window. And the perception it puts out there to anybody that's potentially thinking about joining is that Tottenham's in a mess. Tottenham does not know what the future is going forward. So if you're a player with any serious ambitions or any quality, why would you sign on that dotted line not knowing what the concession plan is? And then Phil also touched on it. Harry Kane and Daigle. Harry Kane's contract. Why would Harry Kane sign if Conte is not going to be here, knowing that there's a possibility someone of Nuno's caliber could be next in the door after him? So, signing Conte's contract over the World Cup, there were so many things to it on the reason why they needed to get it done, and they failed.
Yeah, well, I agree 100% with you, Dave. I mean, if it's true about the Levy offering Conte 1 million a year as well, I think that's Conte isn't there for the money. He's on 20 million a year. What's an extra mil going to do? Do you know what I mean? He's there to get his squad that he wants. And that's all he's asking of Levy, is just to put his hand in his pocket and pay the money. That's all he's asking for. Yeah. He just needs the tools to do the job. That's it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And actually, funny enough, I sort of think that Antonio Conte has actually benefited from this whole kind of skepticism and kind of I don't know, what is it, kind of negativity around these contract renewals, because if he isn't feeling like he's being properly backed or even properly supported, like maybe Guardiola, Arteta have with their contract extensions, what's the point of him rushing into it, especially when he knows a certain Daniel Levy has had a history of making false promises, maybe not exactly coming through entirely with all the goals and promises that he's given managers. Antonio Conte probably knows this. He's not a silly man. And so what he is going to do is he's going to extend this and wait as long as possible so that he can see maybe Daniel Levy's stress, sweat a bit more. Then he can really see what actually the true intentions of maybe that board is.
Two things I want to touch on what you said there, Jack, and then we'll let Daigle back in. Is the first one you talked about benefiting, Conte benefiting off this. But we also have to remember, Levy has benefited off Conte as well. He got in a manager that every fans wanted. And with Conte's good management of the team, getting us back to top four, and also his antics on the sideline and in the press conferences and everything else, has completely took that limelight off Daniel Levy and stuff like that. So Levy has benefited in that regard. But then Conte is obviously going to benefit from the fans being pissed off with the club and the owners, this, that, and the other. So he's going to use that as his leverage in the January transfer market. But they both benefited off each other. And then what was the last point you made there, Jack?
I'm not really sure, Dave, but I think the point maybe I was trying to make is that I feel like Antonio Conte, there's actually no reason for him to rush into it, knowing that maybe previous managers that he's seen around the league, right? I think someone brought up in the comment, Guardiola, Arteta kind of extended their contracts quite quickly. That's probably because they were maybe told the things that they wanted to hear. They were offered the things that they wanted to be offered. And it kind of was just easy done, kind of shake hands and get out of there. But maybe with Conte, that hasn't exactly been the story here. So what's the point of rushing into it?
On that as well, sorry, and then we'll let Daigle in, then we'll let Sean in, and then we'll let Phil in and get some of the super chats as well. But on what you said there, Jacko, is the fact that why wouldn't Antonio Conte, as we know with Inter Milan, Chelsea, he's not going to let a club ruin his reputation. He's not going to do it. He's got CVs, he's got trophies on his CV. Now, as well, we also have to be aware. We've had three of the best managers in the world over the last couple of years, and Pochettino, Jose Mourinho, and now Conte. If Conte doesn't work, where do we go after this? Because there's only so many top managers available out there, and a lot of them are in jobs and they're happy in their jobs right now. So it is going to be what I've talked about before, that project guy coming in, that it's going to split massive amongst the fan base and divisive, but we're going to have to sit through it and like it. And that's it at the end of the day. So Conte is definitely not going to let Tottenham ruin his reputation. And it's not a good look for Tottenham either, because that would be three of the best managers of the world, reputations that have been tarnished because of this football club, because of the transfer dealings and stuff like that. And trust me, Conte will not let that happen. He will walk before he lets that happen.
Yeah, I'm with you, Dave. Mr. Daigle, it sounds like someone has snipped the Wi-Fi wires outside the house. I apologize, my friend. But maybe give, your final thoughts / maybe a Tottenham on Tour plug.
Yeah. I mean, I just have a couple of final things, and I'll have a cheeky Tottenham on Tour plug. I mean, first of all, I have to say the irony that I'm having to leave and be substituted with Sean because of Wi-Fi issues is an absolute joke. It just shows how bad things are right now. Listen, what I will say as well, like David was just saying with Conte, is the other ace that Conte has up his sleeve is he knows. I said it, and there he comes. As I was saying, with David, with what he said, Conte's in a position where he knows that should he leave, any manager we get in a replacement is a downgrade. He's standing at the top of the mountain, and he knows anyone that doesn't come in or comes in after him, no matter where you stand, is a downgrade. The cards are firmly stacked in Conte's favour. So I would be doing everything that he is doing. Do I want him to stay? You bet your I'm as much Conte in as I am Levy out. So let's just hope that happens. And I will be able to speak to you guys more because I'm going to kill the Wi-Fi or find a chairman that's blocking my Wi-Fi and have a few words with him. But what I will say is obviously everyone like and subscribe to Jack's channel, David's channel, my brother Sean's channel. Phil, it's been a pleasure being with you and spending this stream with you. There's the stream. We're back. We're back tomorrow actually doing the show that you control. Ask Us Anything. So it'll be another wild show. So please come feel free to join us. I wish everyone in the chat a very, very happy holiday season, whatever holidays you're celebrating, and a very happy and healthy new year. And what I will say is, in passing, don't forget we have the beds, the toiletries, the paint, the 4x4s. Christmas is coming. Feel free to buy all of those. And as always,
wait, Brian. Sorry, before you do the Levy out, I just got to ask you a quick admin question. Are you sure that there's not a better name than you can get than Tottenham on Tour 4873? Is there 4872 previous versions of Tottenham on Tour on YouTube?
It happened to us, Sean. We were a bit lazy about changing it.
I have to say with that, since YouTube have given those numbers, I went onto it the other day and thought we'd lost 360 subscribers. And I was like, how the fuck have we lost it? And then I realised it's that Potsy number that they put there, which I will be dealing with. But now that I've done that, that is a whatever YouTube are doing. But now I've spoken about it, I have to do it again, Sean, so I can do it more the merrier. And as always, Levy out.
I'm disappointed. I thought there'd be a bit more oomph in that there with the news that's gone on with the Levy out. I thought there'd be more oomph in it from Dave, a bit more passion in it. I'll have to ring him after.
Maybe the Wi-Fi was doing him an injustice there, Dave. Maybe he really did. The Wi-Fi was just doing him injustice. But Sean, thanks for stepping in, subbing in. How are we?
I'm well, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me.
You missed the Harry Maguire conversation, sadly enough, but we are talking about the Antonio Conte contract situation. And maybe this is actually a good place to get Sean in here, I actually think, because one of kind of the sticking points, Sean, is that, or maybe not even a sticking point, or maybe a misconception, is that not really the wages have anything to do with kind of the disagreements right now. Conte and Levy have never apparently had an issue, according to Jack Pitbrook, or any qualms in the past. In fact, Conte has admitted that he is already very well paid by Spurs when he referenced his important salary of £15 million per year. He would like his good work at Tottenham to be rewarded, and a figure of £20 million has been discussed in the past, a long-term contract on a salary that would be a heavy commitment for Spurs. But what does that tell you then, Sean, if the case is that Spurs are very willing to overpay their managers, if not pay their managers very handsomely, but they're kind of more reluctant to give those managers that they pay so handsomely enough funds in the transfer market? Why is it that maybe they're totally happy with, shoving money at a manager, but not really shoving money at a manager for transfers?
Yeah, it's the catch-22, isn't it, Jack? Like, to me, to be honest, like I read yesterday, I think it was that he's already on 15 million, and they were willing to offer him a £1 million a year raise, right? And he said it's not about that. And if you're already earning 300 grand a week, and someone's offering you an extra 20 grand a week, like it's not going to be really about that, is it? Like to him, 20 grand a week isn't really worth getting out of bed for. So like it doesn't make a blind bit of difference to his kind of like his lifestyle. It's just going to be money that he'll probably just pay in taxes or something. So to me, it's like, it's all about the commitment. But yeah, it's a very tricky one to answer because at the end of the day, I think that the trickiest part of the conundrum is whether or not the people at the top of the hierarchy believe that he really wants to be here. And even if they give him the new contract, will he see it out? Because in the past, he's walked away from contracts anyway. And so I think the hesitation from the Tottenham board isn't so much around paying him the money. It's really about whether or not you should go and buy players specific for his system when even if he was to sign a new contract, it doesn't really guarantee that he's going to be here for the long term anyway, because he's the sort of guy that when he fancies a change, he'll just find a reason to leave. And so, when you have a guy who plays that very specific system that has very specific roles of certain players, especially in the areas that we need help, i.e. the middle of the back three, the right wing back, those roles are very specific. If you're playing a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2, they are, you either go and get a jack of all trades who plays a centre back,
sure,
or you don't. You get a master of one, and if you get the master of one, then he's not going to be necessarily around, and then the next guy off the rank probably isn't going to play that same system. So for me, it's a conundrum that comes with Conte, is that not only is he not around very long historically, but he also makes it difficult for people to plan for the event that he's not around, because most managers don't play his, and most managers don't want to play his system. So do you want to go out there and spend a fortune on players that fit his model when he might not be around in a year's time? And then you've got this guy on a 4-year contract, you've got a player on a 4 or 5 year contract, paying the guy 200 grand a week. And then suddenly you're left with horses for courses. That to me is the biggest headache. And that's also what I'm reading about, like half of the Tottenham hierarchy at the top end want to give him the money. The other half are a little bit more resistant or reluctant, and are thinking more about Pochettino or whoever else.
But then I will caveat that just quickly. And Phil, welcome to come in on this as well, my man.
Yeah.
Why hire him if they know then further after a year and a half that they don't want to keep bringing in players for his system? If you're going to hire him, when you make that decision, you've got to be prepared to see that contract through. There's no point of bringing in a world-class manager in here who demands good players that might command a bit of a fee, or a bit more of a fee than what Tottenham want to pay. Why bring him in here in the first place then? Don't do that to us. Don't do that to the fans.
I agree. I hear you.
I just want to make a point about Levy, whether he's behind Conte's philosophy of football now. I'm having serious doubts about that now, because he's not giving him the tools for the job in any transfer window, to be honest with you. And that's worrying. And the longer this goes on, I think Conte will walk. And with Poch, will he want to come back? Because after the Champions League final, he went back after that. I expected us to go to another level with the funds that he would be giving, but nothing happened. So, will Poch come back? I don't know.
He does enjoy Poch, that's for sure.
He'd come back like that, mate. He would be back. If Conte walked tomorrow, Pochettino would be buying a one-way ticket to London. Yeah. Straight away. He's like, I'm ready, Daniel. I'm ready, bro.
Daniel Levy likes that style of football. He likes the Pochettino style because Pochettino demanded last. Pochettino also embraces the youth academy. He incorporates that. There are actually a lot of things that I think Antonio Conte has changed about Daniel Levy. There's actually, you can tell that Conte is very different to a Pochettino. He has like a different way of operating, a different outlook on how even the club should be run, footballing decisions, etc. And that's also maybe what's interesting, is that perhaps Pochettino is more in that comfort zone for someone like a Daniel Levy, where someone like Conte kind of pushes his buttons, pushes his boundaries, and kind of makes him sweat and stress a little bit more than a Pochettino. Pochettino is much more in his wheelhouse, much more of a guy that he feels like he can manipulate and control. Whereas earlier we were talking about Conte. Conte is the exact opposite. He's the guy holding the leverage over over Daniel Levy. He's the guy that's pushing Daniel Levy around. And this is something that Daniel Levy normally doesn't find himself in, not a position he likes to be in. Where he's
how long does he let that go on for, Jack? Because he's supposed to be the man that's running this football club. So how long does Levy keep letting Conte bend him over a barrel for?
Maybe in court, he probably would be accepting being pushed around as long as he has success. But how much is a Levy willing to be pushed around for as long as success is guaranteed? And he's probably not going to throw a ton of money at Conte because, like you said just before, he's not exactly always, his biggest fan. They do disagree on a few things. So as long as maybe Conte is still guaranteeing some sense of success, maybe Levy would tolerate being pushed around. But if Conte turns out to be unsuccessful for a variety of reasons, probably because he wasn't properly backed, but let's say if he isn't successful, then Daniel Levy will kind of look at it like, hey, we're not successful and I'm being pushed around right now.
But in order to be successful, you have to plug the holes in the squad, exactly. And there's glaring holes. The thing is, the board keep offering a lot of these guys contracts after contracts after contracts. And that's why we're sitting here with some players here 5, 6, 7, 8 years and always being on the periphery of the starting 11 because they keep getting contracts to protect their value. But realistically, outside of Tottenham, nobody really sees that value in them. So we're stuck with them. So, at some stage, in order to get that success, you have to plug the holes in the squad, which what managers are telling you they are. Jose Mourinho told him he needed centre backs in here. Look, Nuno, I don't give a shit about, but Conte is also, saying it as well. And for me, if he wants to persist with Eric Dyer and he thinks Eric Dyer is good enough, well then you step into the dugout, you try and manage it because. If you want that success you're talking about, Jack, you can't sack a manager off not being successful if you haven't plugged all the holes in the squad that need to be plugged.
You know what I worry about? A little bit more than just this concept that I was speaking about before about whether or not Levy's going to back Conte and buy those specific roles for his system, just in case he fucks off, and then we're left with the wrong players for the wrong next system. But I also worry about the entire inverse of that happening, and that Conte and Daniel Levy may sanction sales of certain players that would absolutely benefit the next player's system, like the next manager's system, who have no place in Conte's system, like Brian Hill or Jed Spence. If Conte doesn't want Jed Spence, or if Brian Hill's never going to fit in because he doesn't play as a wide man and he can't play as a striker and he can't play in a holding pattern, then he'll be loaned out, maybe with obligations to sell. This January. Imagine that. Imagine the scenario that not only do we not buy a centre-back, not only do we not get a better right wing-back who can play the model, but both Jed Spence and Brian Hill are loaned out with obligations to sell pending certain metrics.
Making me cry here, Sean. I can't lose Hill Messi and not get a centre-back.
and then Conte walks anyway. Pochettino comes in and Hill and Spence would absolutely fly in a Pochettino system, but they're no longer at Tottenham and they got sold on the cheap to Spain. That would be the absolute worst, and I can see it happening.
That does sound painful. That does sound painful. Phil Dermot here with a super chat saying, "Big up, everyone. I don't want Poch back. We need to back Conte and get the players he wants. I can't wait for Spurs to come back. Come on, you Harris Army. Come on, you Flat Cap Army. Come on, you Spurs." Do you feel the same way about Pochettino, Phil? Like you're kind of just you want to stick with the Conte project for now. You don't really want to go back to the old girlfriend, the old missus, or do you kind of miss the old missus in the case of Pochettino?
Yeah, I mean, I do like Conte. I think he is a quality manager. With Poch, I was fully behind him as well. After the Champions League final, I thought we'd go to another level and start spending money on more world-class players to get us to that next level. But there always is a soft spot for Poch because he does play good football. But it goes back to Levy again. These managers, these world-class managers that we've got into this club, Mourinho, Poch and Conte. What is the point in bringing these managers in if we are not going to back them? That's why it's going wrong at this club, is because we're not paying the money. So that's the reason behind us not moving to that next level.
And we even just discussed before that we lure in these managers with these really high wages. We're willing to pay them whatever they want, make them feel comfortable, make them feel like, they're getting, the right paycheck. But then we actually kind of pull a fast one on them and then don't really give them maybe the players that they exactly desire. It's a tough situation. Personally, I'm with you there, Dermot. I do want to stick with Conte for the time being, but I agree with Sean that if Conte does leave, I'm pretty sure Pochettino is just waiting right outside the door to get walked right in. Adrian Chia saying,
I got a tenner on it already. He'll be
Levy
the manager of Tottenham next season. Yeah.
But is the squad that he inherited, when he was at Spurs? Is it a better squad now?
No, definitely not.
Was it a better squad back then?
There's the one really sort of, for me, the sticking point about having Pochettino back is that he did very, very well, but he did inherit a brilliant team, or not a brilliant team, a team with great potential that he then nurtured. I'm not sure the same talent exists. Half the players are still there, but they're 6 years old or whatever. And so I don't necessarily think it will be anywhere. It won't be the same. It will be a challenge to see if Pochettino can do it again or can try and improve on his last effort. but I think it will be a more difficult challenge for sure. And I think
And
he'll
also-
be coming in with a lot of fallen crests. A lot of people will be, the fan base won't be quite as optimistic. The general vibe around Tottenham will probably be pretty low as he walks through the door because of Conte leaving, and again another manager goes by the wayside.
But we also have to understand that Potter was allowed to clear out 12 players, to form the nucleus of his squad. Get bad eggs out. He got rid of the likes of Adebayor. He got rid of a lot of senior players out of that squad and went with sort of a young squad, hungry. And we also have to remember that a lot of these players, you have to meet his training requirements, running stats and all during the week to even be in contention on the weekend, which I don't think that'll be an issue this time around. But even if Poch walks in here, he's still going to need backing. Like, we have to remember, he ended sourly with Harry Kane, Son, Lloris, Dyer, Lucas Moura, Davies, Sanchez. He wasn't even on the training pitch anymore by the time he got sacked. He was sitting upstairs. The relation, and then the players had lost trust in him. They didn't want to do his running or that anyway. Even look at Eric Dyer. Go back and look at the documentary when Jose Mourinho came in. Jose Mourinho asked Eric Dyer, "Why weren't you in Poch's team?" And Eric Dyer blamed Poch. He blamed Poch. He said, because my injuries, and when he makes you do too much recoveries and that before you come back from injury, this, that, and the other. So Poch isn't going to take too kindly to that walking in here. So he's still going to need the same players in the same positions that Pochettino needs them in.
That's a very good point. I mean, will the players be behind Poch if he come in? Would they be behind him? That's a very good point.
You have to think about the clear outs, because it's not like Antonio Conte and Pochettino probably have the same opinion of the players at the squad. Like, there are probably some players that Pochettino happily keep around that Conte wouldn't keep around, and then vice versa. There are some players that Conte doesn't want to keep around that maybe Poch would love to have still at Spurs. And that's also right. You still need to be backed, and you still need to have that sort of that agreement between board and manager about what sort of players they will accept and what players they'll happily keep around.
But it's why he became unhappy in the first place, Jack. It's exactly the reason why he became unhappy in the first place, because he wanted a rebuild. He could see the squad was aging, and they didn't want to do it. They backed what they had. They sacked him, got in Jose Mourinho.
Yeah.
So, he's going to have them demands walking in here. Of course he is. So why not do it under Conte, who has trophies on his CV, rather than Pochettino, who could barely win a French league with PSG, even though they've got one of the most expensive squads assembled. I think he picked up a French Cup, but what else has he done? I'd much rather not only his age and bringing in the players, because he's got the trophies and that behind him to prove it. Whereas Pochettino went to a PSG team, one of the most expensive assembled teams around, and in my opinion, it was a failure.
Mm-hmm. Adrian Chia saying Levy buys Christmas decor after Christmas to be used for next Christmas. It's like buying all that snow gear in the summer for skiing and things like that. Looking for the right time period, looking for the right deals in the right situations. Mark and Spencer clearance sale is up and running, Adrian Chia. Spurs between the lines. Question for all of you. If he doesn't sign, would you keep him or sack him? This is an interesting question here from Mia. Sean, what would you answer to this? If he doesn't sign, is it worth keeping him around?
You've got to sack him.
Conte?
Yeah.
It depends when he doesn't sign, when that conversation finishes.
So basically, maybe we reach like June 15th, and it's just the decision of whether Conte, gets that year extension.
Oh, no.
You sack him then, right?
No, I don't care. That year, I agree with Dave. The whole year extension thing is irrelevant. I think, I think it's necessary.
You'd be like holding him hostage. Yeah.
If he wants to stay, he'll sign. If he doesn't want to stay, he won't. But I agree with, this is where I agree with the Sabba's take on it that I heard him say the other day, and that was that if he does sign the contract, then at that point there's the Levy out narrative around not backing the manager needs to kind of be put on ice or stop. If I'm honest, because part of those conversations around whether he's going to sign, we've already kind of agreed and figured out that it's not about Conte's money or compensation, remuneration. It's about Levy's intentions. So if Conte signs on the dotted line, whether it's for 1 million quid extra, whether it's for 5 million quid extra, we should dismiss that as the rationale, and we should assume that Conte has been given the assurances, and then whatever happens would surely therefore be a consequence of those assurances. And if we don't like what those consequences are, whether we sign 1 player, 2 players, 5 players, whether they're good enough, bad enough, whatever, at that point, if Conte signs before January, before like in the next couple of weeks or whatever, or during January, and we sign a few players, at that point, Daniel Levy and ENIC should have the pressure off of them, and it should be on to Conte, because Conte's agreed to the terms, and then there can't be any more excuses. It's over to Conte to do his job.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. And look, I would say as well, if Conte doesn't sign, he's putting himself in the potential bracket to be sacked, because Tottenham can't keep going on till the end of the season, not knowing what this guy's future is, because eventually somewhere along the line, it's going to start affecting results. It's going to start affecting player performances. Some players will be like, Conte's out here at the summer. You know, I don't have to do what he tells me to do. I don't have to do all this running that he tells me to do, this, that, and the other, because we know his reign can be mentally and physically demanding, like people have come out and players come out said about him before, that it's so demanding. So you're going to see an inevitable drop-off if this situation doesn't get cleared up. But the thing is, it's out there now. So I reckon you're going to see movement on this very, very quickly, one way or the other. You know, do Tottenham sit around, hang around, go and back him in the January transfer window? And that means he'll probably be here beyond January. But if they don't see themselves doing that, then they've got to pull the trigger on this quickly and get in the next guy that they do see backing him in the January transfer window, because you're sitting in top 4 right now. Yeah, it's a big difference to where we were at last season. A couple of players can push us on even higher. So it's an important January transfer window, and that's why it was important to get this signed. So, you know,
Dave, it really is just a couple of players, right? Like, I know that maybe last summer we were looking at a complete rebuild, but where we're at right now, in order to get through, like let's be realistic and say that the title races are over, the Carabao Cup's gone. Let's see if we can go deep in the FA Cup and deep in the Champions League.
Right.
But in all honesty, the league is about protecting top 4.
It is,
right? And in all honesty, and all we need to really do that.
Sean, there's an opportunity.
An opportunity, what, to win the league?
Well, to push up, like with Man City, or with Chelsea being behind, Liverpool being behind, Man United being behind. You know, we made up 8 points on Arsenal last season. Where we're sitting right now with 1 or 2 signings, there's an opportunity for us on the outside chance to make a challenge.
Yeah, okay. Well, but we could, certainly. I'm not going to sit here and limit our expectations.
Yeah,
certainly we can push on. But I think in all honesty, in all likelihood, I think the league is probably the gap is a little bit too big, and maybe it's a little bit of a step too soon, especially because any signings that you are going to make, given the difficulty of our fixtures in January,
right,
and they're going to need a bit of a bedding in period. I know that Bentancur and Kulusevski hit the ground running, but that's the anomaly, not the rule, right? And so, you know, maybe we have to, you know, factor in some of that stuff. But generally speaking, I think the most realistic option is if we can get 3rd, 2nd, or something, great. But at least get into the Champions League. And then in the summer, if you can guarantee Champions League, plus you're almost there with the team, you just need to plug a couple of little things here and there. Then you can have the real value. Go and drop 100 million quid on 1 star player, or 140 on 2 70 million pound players. But right now, to get us there right now, not signing anybody or focusing on areas that are not of like urgence, will I think end up with us slipping back to 5th or 6th potentially, because I think Newcastle are too strong. You know, Manchester United look really comfortable early in the Ten Hag era. You never know what Chelsea and Liverpool are going to do, in all that stuff. But my point of this ranting is we don't need massive wholesale changes in January. You just need relatively cheap options that are available to fill essentially 2 gaps, really. Right? You could probably get away with not buying the creative player, but all you really need is a solid centre back. And ideally, if you could get it done, a right wing back that really improves us, whoever that is, there's another discussion. But that's all you like. If you get that done, bare minimum, that could cost you 40 million quid. I mean, you're not asking Tottenham to break the bank.
I think it's even Conte has admitted himself that he's only a few players away. Like, there's been some rumors that he even thinks it's only 3 or 4 players away. A lot of people on the fan shows have come on and said it's only 2 or 3 players away. They think from also being a whole lot better. Where do you stand on this, Phil? Do you think the longer that Conte delays, maybe the sooner that he probably gets sacked, actually? So it is kind of, again, going back to that whole, you know, he can only push Daniel Levy so far, because if he doesn't exactly make his intentions clear, if he doesn't make his future clear, Daniel Levy might just eventually just give up and just sack him.
Yeah, I'll just think Levy, I don't know why he's taking so long to back Conte. It's a crucial moment in the season where it could elevate us into 3rd or 2nd in this league. I don't think we'll go for the title, like Sean said, but I don't know why he's taking so long. Why can't you see that these other top clubs in the top 6, they're strengthening as well, but we just seem to be staying where we are and we're not spending the money. So I don't know why he's not spending the money. The money is there. The money is there to spend. This 50 million that needs to come in, in 12 days, 13 days or so. Why not just bring that into the club and start spending the money?
Because they've overvalued it. That's why.
Well, I'd rather them have the stake.
It annoys
the
me the life out of
2% stake that they have and bring the money in.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying that their justification, which to me is madness, but as billionaire money men, they're the sort of people that do look at that and think we've massively shot ourselves in the foot by valuing the company at 7.5 billion, when Chelsea, who is a fairly similar ecosystem in terms of, if you were to do traditional valuation metrics, and they're valued at about 3.5 billion. So what they've essentially done is give away acquire two. If they take the full 150 million, they're acquiring 2% more ownership, but in reality they could have acquired 4%. And so they're looking at that thinking that 50 million quid that we're going to give to the company is only in reality worth 25 million quid. And is 25 million quid enough for billionaires to sit there and take the wrath that is going to happen if they don't take that extra 50? To them, it probably is. To us, it's like, come on, boys, you're billionaires. It's like that doesn't. You sneeze and like you more.
There's a reason why they've got that money, though, Sean. They don't. They're frugal. They're frugal.
I have a question. Yeah, Dave. Yeah.
I just wanted to touch on a point just quickly, Sean, that Jack made or that Sean made, and it was to do with Newcastle, Liverpool, United, etc. Now, look, Newcastle, you'd like to think they're going to be in and around now with the amount of money they have. Liverpool, Man United, they're going to be bought, which makes our margin for error even smaller and smaller and smaller as the years go by, especially in the transfer window. So now is not the time to be dicking about, or do we want to sign a couple of extra players to plug holes and back a manager, or do we want to sack a manager and go again with another new project? Because if you do sack a manager and go with another new project, you're putting yourself another 2-3 years behind some of these clubs. And eventually with the money they have, it's going to be 7, 8, 9 years. And they can make that very, very rapidly with the money they have and the power they have to be able to bring in the players. So the margin for error right now, it is very, very small, and they can't afford to get this wrong, as we're going to be left behind if they don't sell. Now, if they do sell, different story altogether. You'd like to think we can be up there, we can be sitting here watching Kylian Mbappe next week.
Yeah, but do you genuinely think, Dave, that without not trying to turn this political?
Well, if you're an investor, Sean, or if you're investing in a country's whole wealth, why would you pay more for Tottenham Hotspur than what Liverpool or Man United were, considering they have bigger fan bases right across the world? So,
I agree. But my concern is really that most of the money that's going to be interested, most of the realistic money, right, that's going to come from places where they don't have to leverage the debt, is going to come from Arab states. And I'm not, like I say, this is not supposed to be a political point here, but it's just a reality.
That becomes a different conversation. Yeah,
Tottenham is a Jewish club. There's politics, there's history there between those kind of two cultures. I'm not entirely sure if an Arab owner would want to come in or necessarily deal with a Jewish buyout. It's just going to be, unrealistic in my opinion. And so the alternative is American money. Now, American money already owns, I think, 8 or maybe 9 clubs in the Premier League. And most of them
Gary Neville wouldn't be happy with that.
The problem with American money is that the vast majority of it comes from private equity or leveraged debt, and all of that stuff isn't real money that the owners have. It's borrowed money, and with the volatility and the interest rates because of the inflation market, because of the way the economy is, when a new owner comes in and does that kind of transaction, you're generally putting more risk on the club's sustainability in the future. And to me, that is not necessarily something that I'm interested in. And it doesn't necessarily, equal bad times, but it adds a hell of a lot of risk. And one of the major roles, the only role for me that is super important of an owner of a football club who is here today, gone tomorrow, is to make sure that you at least protect the viability of the asset, viability of the business, for the long run, so that my kids, your kids, everyone's kids can enjoy supporting Tottenham Hotspur.
The same level of Tottenham, at least.
And leverage debt ownership is in this market, it was different. Over the last 20 years, you've had 0 interest rates since 2008, at least. But now that's changing. And so I don't know, like it makes the whole, does Tottenham, you would think that maybe one of the 15 unlucky people that don't get to buy Liverpool or Manchester United, one of those unsuccessful parties would maybe look at Tottenham if they were up for sale and think, I'll get on board that one. But with the culture and the economics, I don't necessarily think it's as simple as we think it is.
It's also kind of silly to be overvaluing your club while every other club is kind of putting a realistic evaluation on their club. Like, you can't just put an absurd evaluation on it when you have clubs like Man United and Liverpool that seem to be kind of putting more realistic evaluations on it, and like maybe put up earlier, have a bit of a wider international fan base and things like that. All those good things that the sports washing owners that would want to have as a big international fan base to choose from too. And if it's a more realistic price, they're just going to choose that instead of Tottenham, and instead of dealing with Daniel Levy. Ian Ferguson also saying that the last thing this club needs is an American ownership group taking over. I'm pretty sure Gary Neville would be very upset to see more Yank money come into the Premier League. Elias Christian saying here, Rio Ferdinand said that Phil Jones is better than Maguire. Should we get Phil instead of Maguire to bring in a homegrown player? I know what you're trying to say here, Elias, but for me, I'm just going to stick my neck out here on this one. If it is going to be a Maguire transfer, I'd actually lean towards it being more of a steal than it would be a disaster, because if you get the right price in, if you do end up not really paying all that much for him, I could actually weirdly see it being like a bit of a turnaround for him. He has kind of a lot of things here at place that probably would help him out. He's in a back three. He has also Gianni Vio to kind of get the best out of him from set pieces. If he's also given maybe that time on the ball, he can pick out passes that I think other center backs in our team just simply can't. And I think he actually just simply is. He isn't the best defender in the league or anything, but like maybe said before from Brian Daigle, this defense needs open heart surgery. And honestly, I think a Harry Maguire could maybe do just for now. Maybe not forever, only makes but sense, could do just for now.
He only makes sense if Conte hangs around. Because if you go and spend, let's say, whatever the realistic...
Yeah, you don't get Maguire for Poch. That's true.
If you get him for if you pay 25, 30 million quid, and he's going to come with hefty wage salaries, he'd have to sort of suck it up a little bit and come back down to reality. But if you were to pay him 150 grand a week and get him for 30, I think it makes a whole ton of sense. Like I said this before, I think he scores 7-8 goals a season with Perisic's crosses. That pays for itself. I think he solves a solution. However, if you sign him and then Conte leaves and Pochettino comes in and wants to play a flat back four, then you've got another square peg, a really expensive fat-headed slab head of a square peg.
I wonder how much it's for, actually, to be honest with you. But on Phil Jones, I'm going to write down this narrative straight away. Do I want a player that has accepted money off a club without progressing his career just to remain as a homegrown on their squad roster? No, I don't. It shows me the player has zero ambition. He's happy to take the money. So, look, Elias, you can protect Dyer all you want. His days are numbered. When he's gone, come back to me.
Slabhead for Moonhead, Elias, get ready for it. Bit of a trade there. I really appreciate your support as well, Elias. Really do, my man. To Bottom Duda in here saying, whether we go past the round of 16 in the Champions League will depend on our January transfer window. Milan cannot spend a lot. Spurs actually can. Milan, in fact, are the champs of Italy, and they can't even spend all that much. Do you agree with this here, Phil, that in order for us to make that sort of Champions League run, in order for us to continue in our path in the top four, we do have to get this January transfer window right. We do have to make the right type of investment. It can't always be, we have to get it right simply as like it's very little margin for error, like maybe brought up before this January.
Yeah, I think we will have enough to beat Milan with the squad that we've got. I just think if we go past that and want to get into the top four, we will need more. Yeah, we will need 2 centre backs in and maybe a creative midfielder, but I don't think we'll get all them in January. I think the attacking midfielder we may get in the summer. But if we do bring Maguire in, I said this earlier, we would need to bring in another centre back that has got pace. That is
younger, more spry.
The other side of him,
something different to Maguire. Actually, I think you would buy something very different. You like you said, a Hincapié or something like that. Something very different to him. Dave, do you think this Champions League run hinges on getting that January transfer window right? And you even said too, it's with all the investment from Newcastle, Liverpool, etc. If Spurs don't end up really splashing the cash, they'll have to then get those January transfer windows right. They'll have to get those signings right. Those £30 million signings that we discussed on the podcast the other day, they're going to have to get that right.
look, they have to get it right. We've already seen the results of good recruitment, and we've already seen the results of poor recruitment. Decent recruitment under Pochettino leads to a Champions League final. Shit recruitment leads to Europa Conference League and being dumped out at the group stages. Look, I want to get something into people here now going into this January transfer window. It is not about how much money you spend. It's about how you spend it and what you spend it on. At Tottenham, and I mentioned this on the podcast the other day, not sure how many people seen it or what I said. Go back to our record signings down, and I'm going to start with Darren Bent. Didn't work out. Paulinho, Darren Bent was what, 16.5 million? Massive money back then. Didn't work out. Paulinho followed that up. 17.
Like 40 million for Paulinho, yeah.
Didn't work out. Wasn't good enough. Then who was after Paulinho? I think it was Soldado. Soldado broke the record, 20-odd million. Hasn't worked out. Sanchez then broke the record. Didn't work out. Followed by Ndombele. Has not worked out. So it's not how much you spend. It's what you spend your money on. You can get good business on a loan in here. You know, there's good business to be done. We've already seen it with Bentancur, Kulizeski, people like that there is good business to be done without spending mad amounts of money. Now, does spending big amounts of money mean you're probably bringing in a better quality of player? Maybe. But at the end of the day, there's more than the quality of the player. You also have to have a good character, a person that wants to work hard, a person that has a hunger and appetite to be at Tottenham Hotspur and play the game at Tottenham Hotspur. There's a lot more around it. So let's get this narrative out that it has to be 70, 80 million for a fan to be happy. It doesn't. It just has to be good business, identified in the right areas with the right characters and the right qualities to be able to come in and make an impact. It's not how much you spend, it's what you spend it on. And we've seen that.
You've got to have a good recruitment team as well, haven't you? I mean, with Hitchin back in the day, he made a couple of good signings, but most of them were dross. And now we've got Paratici in. I think he could change all that and bring in the quality players that we need.
Yeah. Definitely so. I completely agree with you, bottom dude. I'm actually going to use this as a transition here to another kind of important talking point that I actually think is something maybe worth considering. Here's kind of another quote from Jack Pickbrook's actually article here. And he said, Spurs fans may well sympathize with Conte and often demand that Levy do everything to keep Conte happy. But the reality is that Levy has actually never broken a promise to Conte about spending. Quite the opposite, in fact. Levy has repeatedly been clear with Conte in private that there is not a huge amount of money to spend, and he has even sanctioned deals for Ivan Perisic on 180 grand a week, Richarlison for 60 millions that he probably would not have done in the past for other managers. Levy and Conte knew that they were getting into it when they hitched themselves onto another last year, even if it sometimes suit them to pretend otherwise. Basically, what I'm trying to bring up here, lads, is it actually maybe interesting that there could be a bit more transparency between Conte and Levy, despite them maybe disagreeing on some things and coming from very different perspectives, I would imagine, on footballing decisions? Is it maybe ultimately a good thing, Sean, that they are maybe a bit more transparent with each other, that they are quite blunt with each other on where they stand on things? Because that at least means that the discussions they're having are forthcoming and honest conversations.
Yeah, and transparency, but that, you know, as much as we would like to see transparency with all the plans, you know, as Tottenham fans, as content creators, we'd love to be able to talk about exactly what's going on. But like, there's absolutely no benefit in the owners and the manager giving away the keys to the strategy kingdom, so to speak. So I understand them keeping it away from us. As long as they are transparent and open with each other, it can only be a good thing. One thing I would say that those press releases that were saying yesterday that, you know, that there's like, it's net that the contract talks have turned pessimistic. If you actually read into the article, it finishes with, and who knows whether it's true. It finishes with the idea that there's still a lot of hope that they're going to get to the deal. The deal's
but
going
also
to get
that
done.
This is all Conte's design as well. There's that theory too. This is all part of his plan. Like, he benefits
100%.
from this whole thing. He benefits from this discussion we're having right now, Sean. He benefits
100%.
from this debate.
We have
like,
to understand.
Yeah.
We also have to understand, Levy going into negotiations is not going to sit there and just go, yes, Conte. Levy's going to try and get the best deal for him. So even though he might have more funds available, he's going to say to Conte, well, I've only got this much, so you're going to have to work with it. He's not going to go in and say, yeah, all that, no problem, away you go. Because then Conte is going to keep doing that every negotiation.
He wants more.
Keep walking all over it.
Yeah. If Levy was 100% honest and said, all right, if we were to squeeze every single drop from the coffers, take that 50 million and then take all the money from the Tyson Fury fight and all this blah, 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 the absolute max that we have is 120 million. And, use it where you want. Conte would treat that as a negotiation point and go, well, I need 200. Whereas if Levy starts at 60 or 50, and he knows that he's got the wiggle room to move up to 100, like it's just like typical negotiations, right? It's like Dragon's Den, Shark Tank stuff.
And they're both extremely stubborn. They're both extremely stubborn, as well.
Anyone that's pissed off with Conte, he's also going to want the best deal for himself. He's not going to sit there and accept, 30, 40 million available when he knows he needs a centre-back who might cost 40, 50 million, a right wing-back who might cost another 30. So he's not going to accept that either. So it's just the way negotiations are. But I will caveat that by saying it's just not good for us going into a January transfer window. Ideally, it should have been done before. So somewhere along the line,
they've had a month. They've had a month, right? To like without any football. No one's doing. They didn't go away for warm weather training. They didn't do anything. All right, they've had to prepare for a couple of preseason friendlies played, as Hotspur way. I know we've got the game tonight. Like there should have been enough time to figure this stuff out and to have these conversations a little bit earlier than it feels like we're having them. And the only other thing that I'd say is that whilst all of the noise that we read is all mainly speculation and people trying to be clickbaiters and stuff, and people like us guys, we thrive off that stuff because it gives us something to talk about every day.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, for me, there's a couple of realities that you can't overlook. And that is that there is £50 million that has not been taken, that was put up as a potential investment, right, back in May. And if that 50 million isn't taken, I need a really, really, really sensible, logical explanation as to why it wasn't taken.
No.
Otherwise, like for me, it's a just because if their justification is, well, they misvalued it and they ended up paying double or whatever on the valuation, then that's not good enough. Like you tried to do that as owners of the club. You tried to put a benchmark in as the most recent investment amount that values the club at $7.5 billion. In order to set the precedent so that at some point the next potential future investor comes in and says, I want to buy it. What's your negotiation price? And their argument is, well, the last investment was at $7.5 billion valuation. If that's the only lot, and then it's in reality, the Chelsea deals come out of being $3.5 billion. If that's the argument of why they're not giving the last 50 million, that's not good enough.
No,
because you shot yourselves in the foot. Like, don't shoot the club in the head because you shot yourself in the foot.
I mean, would Levy have had these conversations like right at the start when Conte come in? Would he have said like, "This is what you've got in January. This is what you've got in the summer"? Would he have had them conversations with Conte?
Supposedly, that's been the case.
Do you know what I mean? Now he's asking for more money. If that's the case, he's asking for more money.
Phil, whatever you may think of
the whole picture before he come in.
Phil, whatever you may think of Levy, do you think this sort of transparent relationship between the two guys with Conte is different to maybe what Levy had with previous managers? Like, has Conte maybe made Levy be more transparent? Like, has he sort of forced him to be less facetious, more forthcoming about what type of money is there? Because in the past, it's always been a bit up in the air. It's always been kind of a bit confusing as to what really they're willing to spend. But if according to kind of this Athletic article in private, apparently they're quite forthcoming with each other and they're quite honest with each other. Is that maybe Conte sort of changing Levy, or is that maybe Levy just sort of realizing that maybe with previous managers, he was maybe not totally honest and now he realizes he kind of has to be?
Yeah, I think he's more,
even if there is no money, he's just going to be honest to the manager and just say, listen, I don't have money. Whereas maybe previous seasons, he would have been like, oh, there's some money, when there really wasn't. Like,
Yeah, I mean, Conte is more persistent than Josie is and Poch is on the transfer front, I think. And I think Conte ain't going to take no shit in talks like that. He's going to be open and honest to Levy, and I think that's the way it should go with an owner and a manager. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, who knows?
I agree completely.
For me, I actually think it's been forced, if I'm being brutally honest.
The transparency
reason why I say that is because, look, everyone was angry at Daniel Levy, and whether they liked the guy or not, it was purely because of the football product people were seeing on the football pitch, and the boos being rung out around the stadium under Nuno's tenure, which has never really, no one's really heard the likes of it at Tottenham before that. So, Levy has no option but to be transparent with Conte, because he needs to get this back on track to take the pressure off him. But also, he's well aware Conte went and sued Chelsea. He came out in the press and told everybody what went on. So he knows that Conte has no problem coming out into the press and just telling the truth. He's not going to let Tottenham ruin his reputation. He'll come out, give his version of events, and tell people what's going on, this, that, and the other. So it's one of them. He has to tread carefully.
I don't think Levy likes that. When Conte comes out, he absolutely hates it, and I think there's a little bit of friction there. I think between the two.
He probably doesn't even like being transparent about everything. He probably doesn't like being told, he says, "Oh, there will be some money for you, Conte." Conte's like, "How much money?" And then he'll get the exact answer, and then Levy's kind of probably not liking that sort of forced honesty, that sort of forced kind of transparency, and it's probably actually not even Levy learning from past mistakes. It's probably just brought up there. It's Conte actually bringing the transparency out of Levy, kind of demanding it, just so that they know, listen, I'm not going to get sort of a what is it? Kind of pull the fast one, or kind of tricked in any way.
Yeah, you're not going to punt me.
Yeah. Bottom Duda, what is the logic behind hiring managers like Mourinho and Conte and not backing them? The fact is that it's so easy to get Poch back itself. It is a red flag. What do you say to this, Sean? What do you say to this? Do you feel like, is Daniel Levy just waiting for that excuse to go back to Poch?
It's a real difficult one, mate. I can envision him having done after the pressure of Nuno with the Man United thing, when the chance I can imagine him going, shit, we need something here that's going to satisfy fans and stuff. And then he's gone and signed the guy. And then maybe he's just gone from having Pochettino, and I don't know what Jose would have had what that relationship would have been like. But essentially, I don't think maybe Daniel Levy's ever been probably held account or spoken to with the same level of mutual or even disrespect that probably Conte has. And maybe 6 months into or a year into the tenure, maybe he's like, he's got an ego. He's got a massive ego, right? But maybe sometimes, egos get in the way. Pride comes before a fall. And, maybe Levy's like, you know what? This guy's fucking really grinding my gears, telling me how it is, telling me what to do. I'm Daniel fucking Levy. That's
where it's at now, I guarantee.
I think he probably is, right? I think he's probably in a 50-50. And then Daniel Levy goes and then seeks the counsel of the other people that are on the board that he has faith in. And probably some of them are saying, no, Conte's the right guy, dude. Pochettino didn't deliver success, and look what he had to work with then. Look what he has now. We're going to go backwards. Some people are talking about the valuation of the club probably goes up by half a billion immediately that Tottenham gets a bit of silverware, because they become more attractive as a successful, or at least a recently successful club, to some of these 15 parties that are going to be unsuccessful when they try and fail to buy United or Liverpool. And so whatever the end game is here for Tottenham, for the owners, some of the people that Daniel Levy's listening to are probably going to say Conte's the guy. And then the other people that are yes men are probably going to say, no, fuck him. You're right, Daniel. You are Daniel fucking Levy. And fuck him. Go back and get Pochettino again. The fans will tolerate him. The fans will love. The fans will get back on board with Pochettino because it was a good memory, a recent memory. And he's a bit of a yes man as well. So yeah, I don't know, mate. I don't listen. It's it'd be amazing to be a fly on the wall in one of their
That's been the main takeaway for me today, Sean. That's been the main takeaway is how much is Daniel Levy really being? How much is he willing to be pushed around? I think that's been the main takeaway for today. Is he going to be pushed around for success? Is he happy to be pushed around as long as success is guaranteed? Maybe, maybe not. But suggestions in the past would say he probably only has so much of a tolerance for it than maybe.
Well, the narrative out there has to be that he's got reins on this club, not the manager. That has to be the narrative that he controls. Because if not, any other manager walking in here, any other player walking in here will walk in thinking they can do exactly what the fuck they want to do, rather than answer to Daniel Levy. So he, somewhere along the line, he's going to have to gain back the narrative that he's in control. So it's
he's going to have to scream in the mirror. I'm Daniel Levy.
This is where you're seeing the boiling point now. Now, just to answer the bottom Dota's question, the reason why you keep seeing managers hired and fired rather than rotating the squad is because it's cheaper to hire and fire managers and believe in the squad you have than constantly rotate the squad until it's to a certain level. It's cheaper to do that. And when you look at where we've gone from Pochettino, couldn't keep goals out. That's why he got sacked. So we went and hired the best defensive manager in world football. Then after Jose Mourinho's huge money, we went and signed someone like Nuno. It didn't work. We went and signed someone like Conte. So what we have tried to do since Pochettino, we've tried to get in a caliber of manager in here that can get more out of some of these players than maybe another average manager can, which makes us look better. But we're all not naive to know that there's plugs to be filled and it has to be done. It's got to the point now where you can't keep sacking managers every 2 years. At some stage, you have to sit there and back a project if you want what a City have or a Liverpool have. You know, it's that simple. Yeah. But also, what else was I going to say? Yeah, it's out there now. People can sit here and dismiss this as BS, clickbait, this, that, and the other. There's probably an element of it that is clickbait. But it doesn't take a genius to realize there has not been a contract signed. There's so many benefits to getting that contract signed before the January transfer window. And that the reason why it hasn't been signed after 2 rounds of negotiations is because Conte hasn't been convinced. By not being convinced, it means that he's not entirely happy. So we can sit here and pretend this is BS. But it's not. This is something that's been rumbling on. The last time this happened, what was it, October? Everyone came out and dismissed that as BS back then. But we're still here in the same situation. It's not BS. It's what's going on at the football club. The article wouldn't be written if the contract was signed. So let's stop pretending this is BS. You should be worried about what's going on right now instead of sitting here going, oh, it's just clickbait, it's just the media, blah, 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 blah. You should be worried what's going on right now because he hasn't signed a contract. There's 4, 5, 6 months left on it. You know, and over January, all the rumors, it's not only going to be players' rumors. Conte is going to be linked with this job, that job, this job, that job, which unsettles everything, causes uncertainty. So let's stop dismissing this as BS and actually just realize that we're in a situation here. It can either go one way or the other. But take notice of this. Stop pretending and stop. Yeah. It's like, you know, someone sitting there telling you going, you're stupid, even though you are stupid, and you just go, la, 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 I'm a genius. You know what I mean? Stop doing it. You just realize there's something to this. Because if there wasn't, the contract would be signed and we wouldn't be sitting here right now. Yeah,
it's crucial to do it now, isn't it? Because, you know, it's a crucial part of the season now. So, you know, if you ain't going to get it done now, it's going to affect the players' performances in that second half of the season.
Yeah. There's also the fact that we discussed earlier too about him due to that. Levy is very happy to pay Mourinho what he wants, pay Conte what he wants, whatever wages they demand, he will meet it. When it comes to the transfers and when it comes to the investment that they want, it's always a different story. And that's what we also kind of realized, I think, too. But absolutely great point there about him, Duda, for sure. I also maybe wanted to get to kind of, while we get to the other super chats as well, get to kind of the last point of this, basically, which is sort of summarizing. Is this really all just Conte's sort of plan? Is this all in the best interest of Antonio Conte? This debate that we're even having right now, is this all really in the best interest of an Antonio Conte? I think that is kind of sort of one of the last things to wrap up here. And also, Mia's, yeah, Dave?
Yeah, I was just going to say we can do 2 of 1. Mia's super chat along that lines as well, so we can answer at the same time.
She's done the job for us here. So she has. She says, I disagree, Dave. It's better for him to wait to make sure he gets what he wants before he signs. He is playing hardball. Is it in the best interest, lads, of Antonio Conte to play hardball? He should not make it easy on Daniel Levy.
Conte's best interest, but it's not in the club's best interest.
Not Tottenham's best interest, yeah.
Non-Tottenham.
And this is the distinction. I've said this before. Well, I've said this ages ago, me and you and Sean talking about. I wouldn't be surprised if Conte held out till after January to use the leverage of the contract situation in transfer window. But the club's best interest is to show him the ambition, convince him to get it signed so that, you know, because how do we know that we're not going to go into the market and go, right, we want you, and he goes, Don't think so. I don't know who's going to be here in 6 months' time. I ain't signing on that dotted line.
100%.
So, there's going to be knock-on effects. So, yeah, Conte is maybe using it as leverage, which I fully understand, but it's not in our best interest. It's not in the club's best interest. This should have been sorted going into a transfer window.
To me, Conte should know in his heart, right? He should know right now, does he want to be here or does he want to fuck off back to Italy? And if he's got any respect for the club, then, and for us as fans who sing his name week in, week out,
he should be transparent.
Then he should be transparent with exactly what it is that he needs to know. And this kind of like game of chicken between two, like the rock and the hard place, these two, like was it immovable object and the unstoppable, unbreakable force, whatever it is, like two egos. Like he is the catalyst. Because I don't really care if he's here or not. I just need some sort of sustainability, stability in our ownership and in our management. Because you're right, Dave. You're 100% right. There's going to be players that we could sign in January that are going to be well sought after. We're not the only club that's looking for centre backs. We're not the only club that's looking at these like De Vries or Skriniars that are out of contract, or whoever it is, Ndicka, whatever, and thinking we're going to go after them. It's not like we're not like a pool of one that are people that have got all these options. No, it's a very, very quick, fast-moving market, and yes. Tottenham not having stability in the short-term future of our manager is going to be a stumbling block for a lot of these players that don't want to come here. And so all Conte needs to do is like be honest with himself, stop playing the game, and just say, look, here's where I'm at, Daniel Levy, right now. Okay, I want to stay here. I love being at Tottenham, but bro, if you want me to sign, and I need to know you're going to give me 100 million in January or 200 million between this window and next window, and give it to my man Fabio to figure out how to spend it. But I need to know that. And if you give that to me, I'll sign for 2 years. If you don't, if that money's not available, then I'm off. And I'll let everybody know so that Tottenham can make the necessary changes, because we as the fans are the people that are being put at risk here with our ability to see Tottenham progress for the benefit of those two playing egos.
I really agree there, Sean.
Well, he's come out in the press. He's come out in the press and said that he does want to stay long term. So,
he does,
he said that. He said that a while ago, didn't he?
Yeah. So,
but his press conferences, mate, feel like, if you remember back to last year, like week in, week out, like in that February to April period, we'd lose a game. He was like, I don't know if I can do this. We'd win a game. These are the best people I've ever trained with in my life. We lose a game. I think these players are all fucking dog shit. We need more. We need better quality. We win a game. I want to marry these people. They're amazing. like he flip flops his
like at the under sixes games, and stuff.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to say something like that off the cuff. Do you know what I mean? He's sending a message out to Levy that he does want to stay here. So just back me. Do you know what I mean?
Is this an important distinction though, Phil, that we did just bring up though, that this whole thing is in the best interests of Conte, but it's not in the best interests of Tottenham Hotspur, and it's not in the best interests of Spurs fans really to be in this sort of limbo that we find ourselves in, right? So how much longer can we really tolerate this? Because we know that Conte will help us out. We know that Conte is a huge deliverer of success for us, but how long do we sit in this limbo period where Conte gets his best interest, but Spurs are not really in their best interest right now?
Yeah, the longer this goes on, it's worse for Tottenham.
It can't only just benefit Conte. Like, that is unrealistic. That the situation only benefits him.
I would have liked to have seen him get a long-term contract as soon as he come in here, and then just lay all the cards out on the table straight away, and then just say, this is how much you've got to spend, and then everything's sorted. Do you know what I mean? Instead of waiting until January and the players are getting unrest, and do you know what I mean? Just get it done at the start of the season. You've got a vision then of what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? And the fans will know what the club is actually doing going forward, instead of waiting and prolonging it for so long.
Absolutely. Art Green, member for 7 months, fan show member. Apologies, Art Green. This was way back in the chat. And he says, I've enjoyed this discussion this afternoon, lads. Great stream as always. Keep up the good work. Cheers from Ray, member for 7 months as well. Art Green 216.
Ray. Lovely name. Like the name, Ray. I used to play Rayman on the PlayStation. Used to be absolutely epic. But also, I know a lot of people call Ray. I do like that name. But my man, I mean, look, I think we've had really two great discussions. The podcast that was released yesterday and today, the think we've had some hella discussions. I think maybe taking the break has done us good, but big up, Ray. Appreciate it.
And also a different time that we've been doing it as well. An afternoon discussion instead of an evening discussion too, as well. Art Green, really do appreciate it. Brian Daigle, member for 21 months, wishing everyone and their families a very happy holiday season, as well as a very happy and healthy new year. Come on, you Spurs. And as always, Levy out. Big up, Mr. Daigle. And hopefully you're keeping well. And let me know how the bass is going, because honestly, I did enjoy the bit of the bass background from earlier. Let me know if the father is, hitting the bass chords, Mr.
Happy
Daigle.
Hanukkah,
Really
Mr. Daigle. Happy Hanukkah.
Hag Shemaya. Hopefully you're keeping well, my friend. And also as well, Adrian Chia is saying Phoenix Suns getting sold at $4 billion is the same money as Liverpool evaluation. My dad originally is from Phoenix, isn't a huge Phoenix Suns fan. I grew up on Steve Nash, Adrian Chia, one of the point guards I used to model myself after. So I actually do know a little bit about those Phoenix Suns, but them being bought for $4 billion in a desert of a city of Phoenix, that is a huge overevaluation. That is a huge overevaluation. I don't even think that Phoenix insane. Is like, unless they're moving it away from Phoenix, unless they're taking the team away from Phoenix, then maybe you could buy it for $4 billion. But
shout out to Phoenix though. Phoenix is a great city. I've been to Scottsdale, I've been to Phoenix, I've been to all over Arizona.
Amazing.
It's
food.
a amazing place. A lot. It's got. I think it's got the youngest average population in America because of the student population. Scottsdale for sure. Scottsdale was a lot of fun with me with my accent. Back in the day when I was a little bit skinnier, cleaned up, Jack. I cleaned up.
ASU there, Sean. Good for you. Good times at ASU, my friend. Good to see you.
Good times, Scottsdale. Shout out to Scottsdale.
Love that. Actually, DeBottom do this one was first. Apologies. He says it will be easy for Conte to sign an extension and then take a severance package when he walks. Happen to enter in a way he's being respectful about this. Interesting point there. I feel like what I am a little worried about, though, with that severance package is I feel like Daniel Levy has learned his lesson with these severance packages. Like in the case of Nuno, in the case of Jose, he's found that when he had to sack them, when he had to get rid of them, he had to pay an extra pretty penny in order to do that. And he probably has maybe learned his lesson before with these severance packages. And then I think it really just then depends on, the transparency between Levy and Conte, because like I said, it feels like Levy has sort of made mistakes in the past about having to really overpay managers in order to get them out of their contracts. So will he accept a severance package for Conte? I'm actually not sure, just because he might be stubborn enough to look at maybe the mistakes he's made in the past when it comes to these severance packages. But anybody want to come in here?
Yeah, I would add it's also not in Conte's best interest to get tied into a long-term contract at Tottenham, because, it could very easily go south, and it could cost them, Spurs could basically ask what they want for it to let him go, for him to be able to leave. So, I think it also suits Conte not being tied into a long-term contract, because if a Juve does come calling, there's going to be if Conte's available on the market, there'll be other big clubs that will think about going for him as well, and he's more easily accessible not being tied into the long-term contract than when he is. So for me, I think he's come into this one with trepidation. And other clubs he's signed long-term deals, but this one, I think he's come in fully aware, going, well, you made mistakes under Poch, made some mistakes under Jose. Not going to make them under me, so I'm not tying myself into a long-term contract, because the knock-on effects of doing a bad job nowadays is it's massive for a manager. Sometimes you can find it hard to get another job if a job goes really wrong. So you have to be careful when you come to clubs like Tottenham, which is probably, I'll be honest, is a step down from probably what he's used to. So he has to be very careful being tied into a club like Tottenham.
Very good point. I feel like
him not signing a long-term contract, he's also looking out for himself. Don't be fooled by that.
Yeah, and I just like to think that as long as they're, being transparent with each other, we might find some sort of solution at the end of this. But hopefully it's the right type of solution with an extended contract. But like I said to Bottom Dude, I feel like Daniel Levy might have a bit of a different feeling about those severance packages. He's definitely been burned once or twice before on those, by his own making, let's admit, by his own making. THFC Till I Die, could Conte be looking for a way out? And if so, or could Conte be looking for a way out? If so, and Poch is a no-go, who else do we get? Love to know your opinion. Brilliant show as always, guys. Interesting choice there. If Poch is a no-go and if Conte is a no-go, who do we go after here, lads? I feel like I would throw some very, very hipster managers at you guys. So I don't know how much I would probably be able to give a really good answer here, but there are probably a few German managers I might bring into the club. I would imagine. I probably actually would take a look at a certain Thomas Tuchel. I really did like Thomas Tuchel when he was in the Premier League. I also know he is a Spurs fan. He is a Spurs fan as well. Do you feel like there's... Yes, he is. He's an admitted Spurs fan. Yeah.
He's a Spurs fan. He said it before.
Then why did he act like such an absolute tosspot when we played?
Because he was a Chelsea manager, Sean. He had to make it. They knew that he was a Spurs fan, so he had to sell it, right? He had to sell it. He couldn't make it too obvious.
Well, I'd have him, especially if he's a Tottenham fan. Yeah, that's not a bad shout.
Just quickly,
but also more progressive managers, I think, come out of the Bundesliga, which is also what, Spurs fans, they want exciting, progressive football. And that's where I also feel like if we were to maybe not have Poch or Conte as a choice, me personally, that's where I would go towards more of those kind of progressive, let's say attacking managers. Because at the end of the day, it does feel like most Spurs fans really do complain about that when the football isn't very exciting to watch. So maybe what we do look for is a manager that would satisfy that sort of need. Is what I would say.
Well, it would have to be, Jack. It would have to be. And you would like to think with Tuchel and Pochettino sitting there, Pochettino said he wants to come back and manage Spurs one day. And Tuchel being a Spurs fan, you wonder then, is Levy in the power then with these negotiations? Because it's like, look, Conte, you can keep making all these demands and pay you a lot of money, and at the end of the day, I'll get you can go because, look, if Thomas Tuchel came in here, I don't think too many fans would be too upset if Conte was to go and Tuchel was to be brought in. I also think a lot of the fan base wouldn't mind Poch being brought back here because of the nostalgia. So Levy does have options to work with right now, and I think that's why you're seeing a standoff. If Poch wasn't available and Tuchel wasn't available, that contract would have been signed by now because he would have given Conte the insurances. But he's got a power play now because both of them are sitting there. But my prediction is, Dermot, if Conte goes, and it's not Tuchel or Poch, it's going to be a step down, and it's really going to be a guy that you're hoping can come in and take this further. But it's not necessarily going to be a guarantee, and you're going to have to sit there right off a season so that manager can get teams right, this, that, and the other. So it's going to be a long old process after this. There's very few top managers left out there that we haven't already had at this club.
That's a great point. I actually probably likely scenario, Dermot, is we go after someone like a De Zerbi, someone who's sort of up and coming, like we said before, attractive football, attacking football. De Zerbi, he's the current Brighton manager.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Sean,
someone
someone like that is who I see.
I thought you were bringing in a Bundesliga name I hadn't heard before. I was like, oh,
no, don't worry. I think the point being, though, Sean, that's someone who Daniel Levy would look at if it wasn't Pochettino or Conte. He would look at someone like a De Zerbi, up and coming, attacking, exciting kind of football, but also a bit unproven at the same time as well. So he doesn't, carry a big ego or anything too going into the club. That's actually the ideal candidate, you would think, for someone like Levy. Maybe not the ideal candidate for every Spurs fan, but definitely one for him, you would say.
Like Levy likes so much about Brighton that I think you should just go and buy Brighton.
Might as well just go and marry him, yeah.
Sean, their Amex Stadium, the new stadium, it's not big enough.
No, it's true. Well, he'd rebuild it. He'd rebuild it in a couple of years. $1 billion.
Probably make a special tube line actually for it as well, so we can just get to the games, back and forth as well. That'd be nice, for sure. But lads, I think we've had a really good conversation today about the Conte. Yeah, Dave.
We never got Phil's suggestions. Phil, you any suggestions?
Any managers on your mind?
A name that popped into my head was Nagelsmann.
That would be young and progressive. He's also got his own stylist.
Yeah.
He's at Bayern, isn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, he's at Bayern, yeah. Maybe we could prize him away from there. I don't know. Maybe it's wishful thinking.
If he fails at Bayern, he could probably have to take a step down.
Yeah.
You offer him a good pair of skinny jeans. He loves skinny jeans. He might entice him. Loves them.
He likes skinny jeans and mountain hikes is what I read up on. So if we can offer him maybe some good hikes around, maybe on Sean's Spurs walks, morning walks, get him on the morning walks and skinny jeans. That's probably all Nagelsmann needs.
Just going to say.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Levy probably employ myself and Sean. Me and the outlet go hiking. Sean does his walks. So he'll probably employ us to try and get Nagelsmann on board.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah. I'm
everybody.
not sure that my style of walk. Maybe your hiking is more in line with what Nagelsmann's into. I walk a mile and I walk back a mile. That's it. That's my exercise done for the day. Bugsy's okay. He gets. That's it. But I'm not going. I'm not going anywhere too drastic. So I don't think Nagelsmann's going to want to join me too.
Even Bugsy would be like, this guy walks too much, Nagelsmann. Yeah, Bugsy would be.
Yeah, 100%.
Love that. Love that. Dermot, there are your answers. I think we'd have to be going for very progressive, unproven sort of kind of guys, which is not exactly what I think we should be going for, if you ask me. But lads, any kind of final points here while we kind of wrap up the show? It's been a great discussion, great afternoon, and I'm gonna put in your channel into the chat here, Sean. But maybe I'll go to Phil here first while I am. Phil, pleasure, my man, and also excellent job today. Your debut on these debate shows.
Thanks very much. Thanks for the invite, and it's good to be in the presence of Tottenham legends. So yeah, it's always good to be on the show.
Appreciate that.
Well done, mate.
Pleasure having you.
Thanks very much.
Having you. Look, really like what you do when you come on the fan shows. You know, your discussions. You're never up here or down here. You're always balanced. So big up, Phil. Really appreciate your time today, because I know working night shift and getting up during the day to do stuff like this, it's not the easiest thing to do. So I really do appreciate.
Oh
that.
wait, are you about to start work this evening? Are you?
Yeah. I've got to go to work in the next 45 minutes. So
And then you work through until what time?
6 till 6. So 12 hours shift.
Trooper.
Yeah. So this is my last night shift, and then I'm off for the holidays then.
Nice, mate. Nice.
So, all good.
Go and smash it.
Yeah, I'm on.
Hon, thanks for joining us on the podcast. Thanks for subbing in today as well. Appreciate you, my friend. And I think we had equally as good of a conversation as we did on the podcast.
Yeah, I always enjoy it, mate. Always enjoy it. Well, thanks for having me, boys. Love it. Just want to know, I don't know, what time does the game, am I doing the watch along with you guys this evening? Is that right?
If you would like to, yes. We're going at 10:45, so we're going at like an hour from now.
So
an hour and 30.
7:40, so 6:45 our time, Sean.
Okay, yeah, count me in. I'll be there.
We'll see you there. We'll see Sean later for the watch along, everybody.
At the stadium. It's at the stadium this time, not on a training ground, yeah? Okay,
No,
yeah,
it's not
perfect.
training. We should get a better view this time, because the last time you couldn't see over.
It was ridiculous. The sun was right in the camera. I was like, you know what? There's no point even watching this game.
We found the flaw. We found the
Jed
flaw.
Spence as well. We couldn't even watch Jed Spence at one stage because there was a pole in the way.
Honestly,
It's like watching a Bournemouth game.
Don't mention that. Levy will go to the contractors looking for 20,000 back, you know. But look, I want to say it was great to be back doing these debate shows. I've really, really missed them. Massive thank you to Daigle as well earlier on. Phil, Sean, Jack, who's had to pick up my slack over the last 2 days because I've been absolutely hella busy trying to get Christmas shit and all sorted, everything else. So massive thank you to everybody. Been absolutely brilliant. Check out Sean's channel. It's only going from strength to strength. Recently got over 4K subscribers. I believe I think it was yesterday afternoon. It was on like 4,030. So he's going up very, very quickly. You want to be a part of the army, get over there, smash that subscribe button. Also, Flat Cap, get over there. January transfer window, there will be scout reports coming your way. I always see people putting in requesting scout reports. Get them in for Jacko to get done for us, but get over there and check it out. Also, massive thank you to all you guys, which is the most important thing out there, for tuning in so close to Christmas. I'm sure people have last minute bits to get done, but priorities, Tottenham is more important. So I like where you've set your priorities to make sure you're here for the discussion and the conversation. Thank you for all your support, the likes, the subscribes, and the super chats today. We're going to be off for an hour. We'll be back then for the Tottenham friendly game. We'll see you all soon. Most importantly, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
In Conte, we trust.
Just quickly though. Last thing, everybody, please. It's up on Twitter. I put it in the group chat. Everybody, just hit that link and go support somebody that is not, let's say, in the best position. He needs our help from the Spurs community, from the rest of the Harris Army. Wes the King, you've probably recognized him from fan shows. He's been on these debate shows like Phil has today, and so he does need a bit of our help right now. I'm just going to leave it at that, everybody. Follow that link. You'll see the description for all that, and he really would appreciate your support. And even if you can't donate right now, just pass it on to someone else who you might know can. So really would appreciate that. Just for me. Last thing.
Big up. And Wes, if you're watching, get well soon, my man. And come on, you Spurs. We're all behind you, brother. Big up. See you all in an hour. Come on, you Spurs. In Conte we trust.
In Conte we trust.
In Conte we trust.